KSU Bulldog Nation Radio.
Mic check 1 2, no doubt it's the Mo with the Mouth Project MC.
It's Playboy Jess, Bowie's best, aka the radio star.
And it's the man with the plan, Big Jew, #1, never #2.
And your name is Big Kahuna now.
Oh, I forgot.
You locked in with the bold ones.
You know we talk that talk.
Walk that walk.
And everything in between. It's about to get super unchy, baby.
Hey, yeah.
Go ahead and give it that D, bruh.
You give it a what?
The drop.
Oh.
Nasty.
Okay, so we finna give him this music.
Shut your mouth.
And then give him the business.
It's the black and gold.
Hashtag Bowie Bold.
And if you don't know,
Now you know. The baddest mother.
Wait. Can't say that on air.
Yeah, sir, you already know what it is. It is the bold one. The bold is himself. It's Big Jew, #1, never #2. And I got some very special guests with me today. Go ahead, co-host, and introduce yourself.
How y'all doing today? It's your boy, the Kid, Mr. AR. You know they made it very far. I'm here to have fun and do what I do.
And we got another special guest here. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
What up, Bulldogs? It's Brother Jay, formerly from WKYS 93.9, formerly from Magic 102.3 FM. Radio 1, radio professional, here to see what y'all doing up here. What's going on?
We're here to talk about radio today. So we're going to go into your experience, get into radio, and we can go into the history. You got to go ahead and turn it up.
All right.
And the knob on the side.
That ain't work.
Try the other side.
I'll try this one over here.
Can you hear yourself on the mic too?
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, just turn. I
it.
always turn them down because the music be blasting. But so you been with 93.9 for a while now.
Yeah, wow, too long. Probably as long as a lot of people listening been alive. I was there for probably 20 years.
Okay. So Kathy Hughes know your name, first name.
Kathy Hughes gave me my job. Kathy Hughes gave me my job. That's a whole story by itself.
Okay, yeah, we're gonna touch on that. So, what made you want to go into radio?
I love music.
Music. Okay.
I absolutely love music. I got hooked on music early in life. I think I DJ'd my first party in 3rd grade. We had a party in my 3rd grade class. I told my teacher I would bring the records, and it started. That's where it started, and it hadn't stopped. So when the radio opportunity came up, I was all over it. It just kind of fell in place, really. I had a family member, my cousin. I had a cousin that says, "You got a nice voice. You should be in radio." And I had never thought about it before. And so I looked into it, and I ended up getting a job.
Okay. See, I got a real similar story. I used to DJ house parties on my phone.
Wow.
Yeah, so they have it's like a.
See, I never had that option.
Yeah, like so it was crazy because it's like I was actually like pretty decent at it. You know, people was like I always come into parties and be like, yeah, who's on the aux? And then kick them off the aux, and I'll take over. And I had the DJ equipment on my phone, right. So I was switching. I was doing everything I needed to do, the sounds and all that. So that's what got me started in radio. And then I came and everybody, of course, the same thing. Everybody saying that you have a nice voice.
Right.
You know, everybody thought I was going to do TV. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know about TV. And then I came and did radio. I'm like, all right, I could do radio.
TV's for pretty boys that like to look in the mirror all day. That's not my thing.
I'm more of a podcast dude. I could do the podcast. It's like a little half and half. I'm like, all right, yeah, that's more my speed. And so, what year did you start radio? So you went straight into 93.9, or did you have you go somewhere else?
The way it started, you mentioned Kathy Hughes. Kathy Hughes had a show on WOL. She had a morning show. Her show started at 6 o'clock in the morning, went from 6 to 10, and she had a producer that ran the board. His name was Kevin. Kevin was sitting where you are while she was doing her show. She didn't run her own board. She didn't produce her own show. I was volunteering at the radio station. I came in at 4:30 every morning. There was a satellite news feed that came down from ABC Networks. I would record the news feed, produce a newscast that they would use at 5:30 on Magic. So I was there first thing in the morning, 4:30 every morning. I was going to the radio station. And before I left, I would sit in the studio with Kevin, watch him do what he did, talk to Kevin about what he was doing. and watch Kathy do her show. One morning, Kevin ain't show up. I'm in the studio. Kathy looks at me, says, "You know how to run a board?" I said, "Yeah, I know how to run a board." I had never touched a board a day in my life. But I told Kathy Hughes, who was the boss of everything, that I knew how to run a board. I ain't never been scared. So we started the show, but it became quickly apparent that I had never run a board. I didn't know how to go into commercial. And so instead of like getting all crazy and blowing up, she said, "Okay, it's clear." And she said this on the air. "It's clear you've never run a board before, but that's all right. We're going to show you how to do it today."
On the air.
On the air. I learned how to run the board on the Kathy Hughes show.
Wow.
And she gave me a job that day. Kevin fucked up. I mean, Kevin messed up by not coming to work.
And now look, 20 years later. So you DJ'd for them as well.
Yeah.
You did the board op. So you said the news thing, explain that a little bit.
All right. So if you, and I guess most morning shows now kind of still do a news segment. They don't do a whole news show. Not in urban radio. But Magic had a news show, a 30 minutes news show called Front Page. Came on at 5:30 in the morning, ran into the morning show at 6, where they just they gave everybody the news of the day. What had happened last night while you were sleeping, what was going on right now this morning, what's happening today, what's coming up, what you need to look out for. And all of that information came through a satellite, almost like cable from ABC. It's a one-shot feed. It comes through at 4:37, 4:36 in the morning, I think. And so I had to get there at 4:30, put a reel on a recorder, which is for people who might not have a clue. It's a big tape. It looks like a movie projector, but it's only audio tape. And you hit record, you open up the pot, the feed comes down. We had to splice tape, razor blades, tape, the whole nine. We did it old school. And an hour later, I handed my anchors. It was two guys. It was Jim Allen and Eric St. James. I handed them copy. I handed them carts with stories and sound bites on it. And they went into the studio and they broadcasted for 30 minutes on the stories that I had recorded and produced for them.
Okay.
That is how Magic started their morning every day until Kathy hired me. That's how I learned radio. I was producing from the very beginning.
And did you go to college for this?
I went to Howard.
Howard.
Don't be mad.
Howard.
See, this is always this hate from HBCUs, but it's nothing but love from where I'm sitting. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, my daddy went to Hampton, so
I know Hampton very well. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I got a lot of friends that went to Hampton as well, so I'm a little biased on this side.
I done walked across that bridge many times. That bridge that leads to campus.
Oh yeah.
From the,
that's good stuff. Good stuff.
The hotel on the other side. Yeah, I know that well.
Yep. And so, you've been in the game for 20 years. Who do you remember your very first celebrity that you interviewed?
Oh, that's a good question. The first one I remember, interviewing, and I don't think she was first. She's just the first one I remember, was Lil' Kim.
Ooh, tell me about that. Which Lil' Kim was this? Is it before Foxy Brown?
This is Lil' Kim when she was fine.
Okay.
When she was gorgeous.
When she was running with Junior Mafia and them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. She yeah. Lil' Kim was Lil' Kim. When she was Queen Bee for real. She was hungry. She was 100% New York City. And she was getting ready to drop Hardcore, I think. And this might have been before Hardcore.
This was 96.
Yeah, Hardcore was like 96 or 7 or something like that, right?
Oh yeah.
So this is before Hardcore. This was like, she had to be just rocking with Junior Mafia at the time. And she came to DC to promote the stuff she was working on, and everybody had all type of rumors and stuff going on about her. And the interview was crazy because she was crazy and she loved the attention and she loved making noise and getting people upset and making people call. So I remember that interview. That interview was off the chain.
Okay.
It wasn't even an interview. I couldn't even get a question in. She just wanted to talk, which is kind of like the best kind of interview.
Yeah.
When they just take over.
Trust and believe. I do love it. Look, more power to y'all. Y'all have fun. I'm just gonna sit here. I'm gonna listen. You know.
Right. If you wanna run the show, I ain't mad at you.
You know,
it's Lil' Kim. I mean, what you gonna do with this Lil' Kim? You gonna say stop? We gotta go to commercial? No.
Because at the end of the day, everybody already tuned in.
Right.
Because of her.
Because of her.
You just gonna let her do her thing.
And she
always
did it.
Does,
and
too.
she did it. We should have. If I had been more savvy, if I had more experience at that time, I probably would have let her. I probably would have called it Queen Bee Day. I would have made a big thing out of it. That happened before I knew about it. So I just sat in the chair and let her rock.
Okay.
And that's what she did, and it was crazy.
All right, you got any questions for him?
So one of my questions I have for you: what is one of the most influential interviews you've ever given?
Oh, that's a good question.
Influential. Wow. When his name was Dr. Ben Chavis.
Okay. What was that like?
He was president of the NAACP.
Okay.
Wow. Okay.
Wait, hold on. Let me drop a bomb for that. Hold on. I gotta find the bomb. The bomb jump. We like the NAACP over here.
Yeah. It was right before the Million Man March. And we were getting the word out, and brothers was actually split, and it was an uncomfortable split because there was some brothers that was down. They was coming. They was going to bring their whole family, make sure everybody showed up, and there was a lot of guys that just didn't see the purpose. They didn't see the need. They probably didn't follow Farrakhan. They thought Farrakhan was enough to make them not go. They didn't see that it was bigger than Farrakhan.
Mm-hmm.
Because Farrakhan's a polarizing figure anyway.
Correct.
It's you either love him or you hate him. It's not a lot of people that don't have an opinion on Farrakhan.
Right.
So Ben Chavis comes in the studio, and he's rallying people for the Million Man March. And I just sat there and I listened to him do his thing because he had his own radio show at the time too. So putting him in front of a microphone, he was real comfortable. He was at home, and he took calls. I remember him taking calls from people who didn't understand why Farrakhan had to be the one to make it happen. And I remember him telling folk, it's not about who made it happen. It's about whether or not we are going to come together as men.
Right. To be as one.
Right. It had never been done before. Nobody else thought about it. You're going to not come because you don't like the person that thought about it? But I sat way back. And I just opened up the phones and let people call in, and he said everything that he said, and I think we had more than 1 million. I would say it was 2 million down there. I'm from DC. I've never seen people from the Capitol to the monument. That's 14 blocks right there. The monument sits on 14th Street.
Correct.
So from the Capitol all the way to the monument, we shoulder to shoulder, elbow to elbow, knee to knee, really. I mean, we pinned in for 14 blocks.
Sheesh.
And then it was a crowd on Independence Avenue that way and another on Constitution Avenue the other way. So you're talking about 3 blocks wide, 14 blocks. And then there were people on the other side of the monument. I ain't never seen. I for every march, for every rally, for everything DC's ever hosted, I ain't never seen that many people down there. So you tell me it was 1 million if you want, I'm gonna say it was 2 million.
So would you say he would be one of the first to actually start that movement for the DMV?
Who you talking about, Chavis or Farrakhan?
Chavis.
Chavis, I don't know if he started it. I'm not gonna credit him for starting it. But damn, did he support it? I mean, he energized it. You know what I mean? It's like for most movements to happen, it takes more than one person.
Correct.
Farrakhan could not have done it by himself. He put out the call.
Right.
But at that point, you gotta have point men almost in every major market who know the people, who know the street in that market.
Right.
To go out and tell everybody, this is what we're doing. We need you to come. This is why it's important. and that's what Chavis did in DC.
To execute the whole plan.
Yeah, he just ran the play. Farrakhan was the coach.
Wow.
Chavis quarterbacked that thing right here, and just to be a part of it, just to be in the room when the magic happened, and all these people calling in with all these different perspectives, and he seemed like he handled all of them. I don't know if he convinced all of them, but it looked like he did.
Wow, that's.
Do you remember any notable quotes from that that time period?
Man, that was 20 years ago. I can't come up with not one quote right now. I remember the things I remember about that day. There's a couple of things I remember about that day. I walked downtown from my cousin's house. My cousin lives in Edgewood, and some members of the family met up at his house, and because traffic was going to be a nightmare, we weren't going to drive. We weren't going to take the metro. We walked down there. I remember walking all the way to the Capitol. I remember seeing a whole bunch of females out there, even though it was a 1 million man march, and we told all the ladies to stay home. It's like some ladies just don't want to listen.
People standing with us.
They came out, you know. It's like, okay, what's up, y'all? But we ain't looking at y'all today.
Right.
And I remember Farrakhan spoke, it seemed like, for 7 hours. He just didn't stop. And at some point he got into numerology, and
the full and all that, for those who don't know.
He went all the way in. I mean, I'm sure nobody's ever had an audience that big.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, he relished that fact, I'm sure. But I remember at the end he asked everybody to give $1, and they tried to make a thing out of that because you can't solicit money on federal property or something. That the next day, that somebody that was trying to look for a bad thing to talk about brought that up. And I remember bumping into like my best friend, who I hadn't talked to about going, I hadn't seen even that week. In the middle of 2 million black men, we bump into each other. I thought that was crazy.
Wow.
And it was a perfect day. The weather was perfect. It was October 16th, and it felt like it was 70 degrees outside, which is perfect if it's going to be 1 million dudes all on 2 blocks.
So it was just destined to happen.
Everything came together. Just everything came together. It didn't rain. Nobody got arrested. Yeah, I saw what happened this past January. It wasn't nothing like that.
Yeah.
And it was way more people. Way more people. And, you know, we supposed to be violent. Everybody got a gun. And it wasn't nothing like that, man. Which
is funny because you've been a DC native your entire life.
I've been here all my life, yeah.
So let's talk about the progression of DC in the 80s.
Yes.
The 90s.
All the
and
way
then
to
now.
The 80s was hell, yo.
We heard
The
that
80s.
was back when it was Chocolate City.
The 80s was hell. I still think it's Chocolate City. I know they trying, but I don't know.
Because you was there for the Chuck Browns. You was there for
Sugar Bear.
All them.
Starting.
So paint a picture for us, you know, because this is college radio, and you know most of us don't even know, can't even imagine what it's like. You know, I was born in '97. You know, so I can recount
He was born in 97.
Yeah, I was born in '97, so I can recount, you know, DC and, you know, for, you know, the later parts of, you know, 2010s and beyond. I can't really account for the, you know, the 90s part. So paint a picture for the people, you know, because the retro thing is in. Everybody's down for the 90s. Everybody's on that retro tip.
Right.
90s ain't bad. I'm gonna say if you're going retro, let's leave the 80s out. Let's leave DC in the 80s out.
Because I don't know if you heard, but this, you know, I saw on Twitter that Outpo died.
Yeah.
You know, and he
and I don't know if I'm supposed to say it, but that's a good thing.
He was running around with the DC. He was running around with the DC cats.
Yeah.
Right.
And for those who don't know, the reason that that's so significant is because there's a movie that all y'all brothers watch called Paid in Full that depicted, you know, him and a couple other brothers' lives.
Alpo inspired Paid in Full.
Yeah. So
that movie was made because of him.
Yeah, and then he died. He was ended up killed, I think, in Harlem yesterday or 2 days ago.
Drive-by.
Yeah.
Just real quick, since you bring it up, we got it. You know, if you don't know who Alpo is
Cameron from Paid in Full.
He was Cameron from Paid in Full. He was a huge drug dealer in New York City. He was ruthless. He was merciless. He killed people. He's admitted to 14 killings. Some of them were kids. And so
which was portrayed in the movie as well.
What one of the things he did to lessen his sentence, because he should never have been out, but he talked. And so they put him in witness protection. But then he went back to Harlem. You killed 14 people
on that very block.
You killed somebody's kid. You killed multiple people's kids, and you go back to the block. So it ain't take long. I'm saying he was sitting in his pickup truck and he got done.
Yep.
All right. Now that type of thing kind of went on regularly during the 80s, the mid 80s in DC, from like 83 to 88, 89, when, you know, death is always a tragedy. And I know it's like, we probably got 100, 150 people have been murdered in DC this year.
Yeah,
maybe
I think
200.
PG has reached an all-time high this year as well.
What number is it at?
I forgot. I think it's like 173. So it was some close to the 200s.
It's I want to say it's in the high. It's 178.
Okay, yeah.
Last I checked, it was at 178.
Yeah, it was something like that. And that's the highest it's been
ever been. Actually, for Maryland.
Ever been for Maryland. Well, just for PG County.
In 1985, over 600 people were killed in D.C.
Wow.
And so for you, how was growing up in that type of environment? How did that mold and change you?
That as it's happening, it's terrifying. As it's happening, it's terrifying. I mean, you honestly don't know if you're gonna get out of high school, if you're gonna make it to college, if you're gonna get out of college. Will
you make it out?
It's so many.
You went to Howard. So
yeah.
You went to Howard during, you know,
when Georgia Avenue was black.
Yeah.
When Georgia Avenue was the hood, Howard was right in the middle of the hood.
Yeah, and that's that. And to this day, that's all you hear is the Howard smack dab in the middle of the hood.
Yo,
it is.
Yo,
2 blocks up the street, you right there in the hood.
Yeah,
literally.
I mean, you could literally just walk out of your dorm, and you could get anything you wanted off the street. And so I don't want nobody to think that was cool. I ain't trying to glorify that. When we talk about the retro thing, let's leave that part out, because that was a rough period.
But y'all glorifying it, but you gotta take the good with the bad.
The good
with the bad, because and at the end of the day, that's what made it what it was.
The good was when Georgetown basketball team won the NCAA championship.
Oh, I know that was live.
That oh my God,
that was magical.
That was a party. I mean, Georgetown was popping just basically, any day of the week. But that was also when Rayful Edmonds was down there shopping, and he would go into a shop in Georgetown, lock the door, and anybody that was in there when he locked the door got whatever they wanted on him. So if you was lucky to be one of them people when Ray was in the building, you were blessed. If you was down there when the Warriors won the championship, you was blessed. Redskins Super Bowl parades, 87 and 91, that was hot, because I've never seen DC come together for anything outside of the Redskins.
That is for sure.
They
you can say that again.
It's whoever.
It's at the old stadium too.
Yeah, that was RFK. It's black, white, old, young, Korean, whatever you were. If the Redskins won, you was at the parade, and I haven't seen DC come together like that since. So those were some of the good things. But crack was killing people. And I never want to see nothing like that again. The 90s weren't bad.
What were the 90s like?
The 90s is when the clubs blew up.
Yeah.
The 90s is when the club we had parties in the 80s. Hip hop had just really started in DC, because DC was probably the last city in the country to go hip hop. We was go-go.
Oh, okay.
We was go-go all day, every day.
So speaking on like the hip hop thing, how do you feel about the DMV's hip hop transition? From when the 80s and then to now. How do you feel about?
Did y'all have? I got one question that's going to tie into your question as well. Did y'all have the D-boys and the breakdancing and all of that?
We had that,
like in New York.
We had that.
Like
we had that.
I want to know, was y'all on the block busting moves?
We had on the block. I don't think it was like on the block. I think it was at parties.
Okay.
I think it was at parties. I need to call my man Iron. DJ Iron he currently works at HUR right now. But we talk about stuff like this all the time because we're about the same age and we both from DC. It was this spot downtown called the Landsberg Building. I want to say it was on 7th Street. It was like right on the edge of Chinatown. It was an abandoned building. This was way before they redeveloped downtown. So it's a whole bunch of empty buildings. It's a whole bunch of nothing going on. Well, we figured out the power was on in this building, the Landsberg Building. And so every once in a while, particularly on weekends, some DJs would take their equipment, go to the building, and we just do our thing, and whoever came, and it'd be a little party, be a little freak thing. People come in there breakdancing, people come in there DJing. I went in there DJing one day. When I had just started DJing, I mean, I had like these entry level turntables. I had house speakers. I had, I was just getting.
How many crates did you have?
I had 4 crates.
Four crates.
Four
Okay.
crates every time.
And
I
for
go
those
to
of
the bar,
y'all
I take
who
4
don't
crates.
know about the crates, we're talking about like big old like things you put books and stuff. And we talking about crates. You know, like it's not
records. We put records in these crates. 70 records could get into a long crate.
Okay.
Wow.
I had 4 long crates. All right. So I could play all day like that. While I'm in there playing, this dude comes in with these Technique 1200 turntables with these 15-inch JBL speakers, and he sets up like damn near right in front of me. This dude's name was Frank Ski. I didn't know who he was at the time, but he embarrassed me at the Landsberg Building. Frank Ski now also works, I think he still works at HUR. I'm pretty sure he still works at HUR. He had a long career in radio. He was at UDC's radio station, WDCU, for a while. And he had a show. I don't know. I can't confirm if it's still on HUR. But I guess he started a little bit before me, or maybe he had deeper pockets than me because he had way better equipment than I had, and I had to leave. And I never went back. But that's, I mean, we had that type of culture in DC. It wasn't big because, like I said, Go-Go ruled everything. Red Essence, Trouble, Mass Extinction.
Proper Utensils.
That was later.
Okay.
That's Proper Utensils is like the 90s. The old bands, Air Raid, Pump Blenders, EU, those bands ran the 80s.
Okay. Ooh. So
and if hip hop came to town to do a tour, they could come. But if they did not put a band on the ticket, they weren't gonna make no money. So if Dougie Fresh was coming,
he had to put a go-go band.
He better book Red Essence to anchor the show, or nobody's gonna see him.
Okay.
That's how heavy DC was in the go-go.
Wow.
It didn't turn around until like the 90s.
Okay. And I want to let's talk about the environment because I've been to go-go's. You know, I'm old. I was blessed enough to go to the go-go's before. You know, they stopped that. It was a period of time, and I think in 2014 to now, now that the go-go's booming again, but it was a period of time where it was like you wasn't listening to it. And my experience that it might be a little bit different because there's a lot of hood beefs and stuff like that. So how was it in the 80s and 90s for you going to these go-go's? Was it the same thing?
It's always been hood beefs. It wasn't like, I wouldn't call it beef. You repped your hood.
Okay.
Because when you repping your hood, that hood comes 15, 20, 35 deep.
Yeah.
Maybe more than that.
Maybe more than
they
that.
had a whole block at the park.
Yeah,
You have entire projects. Depending on whose band you're going to see. Big G would shout out Clifton Terrace all the time. He would shout out Sursum Court all the time. And so when you do that, those neighborhoods, they get hyped. In the 80s, it was really it was northeast, southeast, northwest, southwest. That's where it started.
Okay.
And then they started getting into streets and neighborhoods, and it wasn't ever no big deal. It's just that's part of the culture too. Everybody gotta be proud of where they from.
Yeah.
And if you want to hype the crowd and you're an artist, a good way to do that is to shout out some neighborhood,
especially the neighborhood you in.
Yeah. Yeah, if I'm in Northeast, I'm gonna shout out Northeast. Right? I'm gonna shout out Ivy City. I'm gonna shout out Riggs Park. I'm gonna shout out wherever I'm from in Northeast because I'm in Northeast. A band, Northeast Groovers, started out in the 90s. It's Northeast Groovers. So guess who came to all their shows?
Northeast was there.
They was at all their shows. But oh my God, Go-Go's was life, yo. That was everybody went to the Go-Go. That's when the actual Go-Go was an all night thing. It wasn't no 2-hour performance. It was, you got in at 7 and there was a band that started at 7 and that band played until 10 or maybe 11. Then another band played at 11 until 2 or 3. And so you in there from 7 to 3.
Morning. Ooh.
You coming out dripping. See, we used to dance. You know, we didn't take pictures and post them. We would actually find somebody and dance with and try to leave.
Yeah, I was there. I was there for my era. We did that too.
Okay. Yeah. I wonder now. I see a lot of stuff now that look a little. It look a little suspect.
I could dance for probably 5-10 minutes and then I was gone. I was done. I wasn't dancing.
That's how it is now.
Because I'm more into like the older go-go. I'm not into this newer go-go. Nothing wrong with the new go-go. I enjoy every go-go band that we have right now for our generation. But I was always around older people, so I always listen to older go-go. So
man, it's some new songs that make you shed a tear how hard them jumps is. It's some new ones. It's some new ones. I'm be like, darn, that joke rocking.
That we still got a whole bunch of bands playing.
Yes.
Yo, they came for go-go hard. They tried to shut down all the venues. They took music out of the schools.
Yes.
And we still got bands making money on a regular basis.
Yeah, and then now it's definitely coming back to is doubling back around, and you know, now they're starting to make more money. Now you have they're doing go-go marches for the Black Lives Matter and stuff like that. I think it's real good because it exposes the other youngins to the go-go music. Even though it's not the Rare Essence and all that's playing, but I mean it's still go-go nonetheless.
Rare Essence just got Go-Go Band of the Year. You know how old that band is?
Older than me. Older than me.
I don't even know. I was born in 2000.
They just got Go-Go Band of the Year. I mean, you gotta give it up to Rare Essence. They not only are they pioneers, not only are they like
legends,
but they still active and winning awards after all this time. Yo, it's crazy.
So I have a question for you. Have you ever thought about going to a radio station while you was working at 93.9 and all them other places? Did you ever think about going to a different market, like going to Philly or New York, or did you did you just want to be strictly DC based?
It's funny you say that. Later in my career, what I did, I had a title. My title was imaging director. Imaging director is typically known as the voice of the radio station. So you don't get to have a show because nobody wants the voice of the radio station to have a show. But as soon as that station goes into a commercial break, you hear that voice. That voice is per the top of the hour in the legal ID, on drops that go into commercials, on drops that come out of commercials, go back into music. I would write promos for concerts that would come into the town, stuff that we were getting ready to do. I did that for Kiss. I did that for Magic. And later, I did it for Philly.
Okay.
105.9 in Philly. And I did it for a station in St. Louis, 104.1. So later in my career, I was in, what's that? If you count Maryland and Virginia, that's 2 states. And Pennsylvania and Missouri, that's 4 states. And DC, 5 cities. I don't know what you call DC. But I still was always in DC. Well, actually, Radio 1 moved to Silver Spring, so I was in Silver Spring. But I was doing work at stations in different markets. And I take DC wherever I go. So Philly got a little bit of go-go. Missouri got a little bit of go-go. They got a little bit of DC because they got me. I can't change who I am. I have never tried to like adapt to whatever market I was in. If you want me for who I am, and I'm DC, so that's what they got.
I mean, the New York brothers be doing the same thing. They bring that New York stuff down.
There's an appeal to it. It's genuine.
It's you. It's also different too. So it's
I wouldn't recommend anybody try to fake it for some market. If you're not from New York, don't go up there trying to pretend like you from New York. If you're not from DC, don't come over here trying to pretend like you from DC. Just be whatever
we
you
gonna
are.
know.
We gonna know.
Cause you try to fake. Cause you know you go to New York and people know if you from New York and not just by the way you look.
Off the break.
Just by the way you look, if the way you dress, they can look at him like, yeah, that's a tourist right there.
Gotta ask you one. All we gotta do is ask you one question. You gonna fake it? All we gonna do is ask you one question.
Where you from?
What school you graduate from? What high school you go to? If you can't answer that question,
you ain't from here. You ain't
it's
from
over.
here. So Aaron, I know you got a couple more questions for him.
So, I did. I had a lot for him. So I'm gonna give him this.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna give him this question. Throughout your career, what is one of the most impeccable times on radio that you would say taught you the most?
Ooh. Okay, that's almost two questions. The time that taught me the most. The time that taught me the most. Okay. I was at KISS. And we had just updated the software that we ran in the studio that played all the music. We picked up Scott Studios. Scott Studios is the software that you put everything into. You put all your music in the Scott. You put all your commercials in the Scott. You put all your drops, everything. You create a library, a database on Scott Studios. And then when you get on the air, you run it off the computer. Well, what Scott Studios gives you the capacity to do is to actually run without a person being in the room. You can program it, and it will run by itself.
Wow.
God bless it.
Yeah.
God bless it.
But it's a blessing and a curse, because now the guy that used to have to be in the studio on the overnight shift can get let go because you can get the computer to play
Everything that you want.
Whatever you wanted to play. I was the guy in the studio overnight. And so they put this computer and said, okay, we don't really need you. And I was like, what? I was like, yeah, find something else to do. So I said, okay. So I started producing morning shows. But they couldn't get the computer to run right. Like, it would crash. And there'd be nobody in the building at 2:30 in the morning.
Oh, how we know that struggle.
And that's not what a radio station is supposed to do.
should never have dead air.
Should never have dead air, let alone for hours at a time. And so they asked me, all right, yeah, I know we told you we ain't need you in the studio. Can you go back and just make sure that if it crashes, you bring it back up? So now I'm babysitting the computer for 4 hours from 2 to 6. I wasn't happy about that. In the 5 o'clock hour, we do traffic reports, we do news. So I went from saying nothing from 2 to 6 to opening the mic at 5 o'clock to intro news and traffic. Then I started opening the mic at 4 o'clock just so I could stay awake and entertain myself.
Wow. Before
long, I had a whole overnight show. I got there at 2 o'clock in the morning. They didn't give me a show, but because I'm babysitting this computer that was danger prone, I just created my own show. I created drops. I created an intro. I gave it a name. It was called The Overnight Scenario. And I ran it like a morning show because I was producing the Russ Paul Morning Show. So I emulated a lot of stuff that he was doing on his show on the overnight show, which nobody else in the market was doing, because everybody at 2 o'clock in the morning wants to feel like DC is asleep.
Right.
Man, I had truck drivers calling me, people at 24-hour grocery stores calling me. I created an entire show and showed everybody that DC is awake at 3:30 in the morning. And I learned so much radio by doing that, by taking the initiative to create my own show when they just wanted me to babysit a computer, and connecting to people who had been, ignored. When you tell somebody at work to call me and tell me you at work and your phone lights up at 4 o'clock in the morning, you're doing something. So that's probably the period that I learned the most in. That's definitely the period that I learned the most in, because I started my own show and it was either figure it out or die. And so I figured it out. That was fun. That was a lot of fun. And then Russ told me I had to give it up because I was too tired to produce his show.
Wow. Wow.
Okay, so I have this game. It's called the Flash 15, right? So I'm gonna ask you some questions. It's gonna be coupled with
The Flash 15.
yeah, Flash 15. I just came up with that on the spot. Give it up for me, goddamn.
That's how you do it. That's how
Give
you
it up
do
for
it.
me.
You create.
But pretty much it's a combination of this or that. So you got to pick one or the other.
Okay.
You could choose both, or you could say neither.
Okay.
Okay.
And it also comes with questions that you can answer as well.
Okay.
Okay.
So the first one is going to be my favorite. It's going to be 80s hip hop or 90s hip hop.
90s. It had much more of an impact for us.
But you see, he came up with both. He came up with both of them, so he saw the evolution of it.
Right.
I see, because I'm gonna tell you why I'm stuck. I'm slow to answer that because I think the best hip hop came out between 88 and 92. My favorite hip hop group of all time is A Tribe Called Quest. I think people's instinctive paths in the tribals of hip hop and rhythm, I think that dropped in 87 or 88. But their biggest album started coming out in the 90s. Low End Theory came out in the 90s. Midnight Marauders came out in the 90s. And when that happened, I think I'm going to have to end up going with the 90s because that's when hip hop exploded. Illmatic dropped. 36 Chambers dropped. God. There's so much classic hip hop from the 90s.
So much. We could run down the list.
Yeah.
Like-
and then Outkast came.
Right.
Outkast is my second favorite hip hop group of all time.
Okay. He answered some other questions. I was going to ask him what was his favorite hip hop group.
Tribe and Outkast, they you got to be creative, man. I'm a creative person, so I appreciate creativity. And what Q-Tip did was he put jazz in the hip hop, and jazz had not been in hip hop before. And to hear all this deep actual bass and hear these horns playing in hip hop, that was beautiful. And then Outkast, I mean, Andre 3000, he's like Prince. They could do whatever. Any song, you never know what you're gonna get when you play an Outkast song. It's like, you know, if it's Tribe, you're gonna hear deep bass, you're gonna hear some jazz samples. If it's Outkast, you have no clue what he's coming with, but it's gonna be dope. So those two groups are my favorites. So I'm going to say the 90s.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to go with the 90s.
DMX or Tupac?
Tupac. DMX had a deep message, yes, but it took you a while to understand why he was giving that message. Tupac, he was more blunt. He was more, you gonna know why I'm saying this, and I'm saying this because it's not just for me, it's for you as well in the community. So Tupac kind of, I'm gonna say they both got us to unite, but I'm gonna say Tupac did it a lot more on a bigger scale.
I gotta say DMX, only because if I'm gonna be honest, I remember buying every DMX album when it came out, and I don't remember buying every Tupac album when it came out. Like I wasn't that fan. I wasn't that guy that was waiting for Tupac album to drop. I can't deny anything you just said. Just personally speaking, when all the DMX albums came out, I had to have them, and so I gotta say DMX. He was the realest cat, I think, at that time that I had ever heard on the mic.
And for JayZ to give him that, hey, that's a lot. JayZ gave him that credibility. For somebody,
I'm glad you brought up JayZ because you already know what my next song is going to be. JayZ or Nas?
Nas. That's easy.
Yeah.
It's funny because I'm a Jay fan all the way.
It's Nas from Illmatic to King's Disease.
Even at the moment where everybody said Nas had fell off, Nas was he was more lyrical even then. I mean, JayZ is lyrical. He not taking nothing from him. He's I just think one of the best lyricists to come from the 90s to now. I mean, but when it comes to downright lyrics, something that you really want to look into, like I want to search this. Why did Nas say that? It's Nas.
Now, it depends on what you're vibing for. Because I'll tell you right now, I'd rather, if you ask me that and I'm DJing a party, I'd rather have JayZ than Nas. Nas got a couple party joints, but I could do a whole set of JayZ and keep the club rocking. So if that's what you're talking about, then it's Jay. But if you're talking about lyrics, it's Nas.
So would you all, to follow up that question, would you all say our Nas and JayZ of this era would be Kendrick and J. Cole? And if so, why?
Kendrick and J. Cole. J. Cole,
No.
J. Cole. Neither one of them remind me of Jay.
Neither one of them have the same impact, I would say, that Nas and JayZ had. So nah.
Cole is the same type of real life rapper that Nas is.
Okay.
Cole raps real life. He raps his hood. He raps what he has, what he's gone through.
He's old. He's definitely hip hop. He's definitely old hip hop.
Yeah, he's not blinging. He's not popping X pills. He's not pushing whips. He's just
him.
He's him. Kendrick, Kendrick's probably more like 3 Stacks.
Ooh.
Than Jay.
That's
yeah.
He's probably more like, yeah.
Because with him, you never know what you really getting.
Yeah.
You never know. Because the last song he just dropped, and then you hear The King's Dead, and then you have Love with Rihanna. Those are all like just, far left than what you're used to hearing with Kendrick. So
he likes to go in different directions.
Yeah.
Too.
Okay.
He likes Cole. Cole is going to stay in the same lane. He's great at what he does. Kendrick don't want to stay in that lane. Yeah. He don't pick a lane. As soon as you think you know him, he gonna do something different.
Okay.
Also, music moguls, East and West Coast. We're gonna talk about Suge versus Puffy. Which one?
Are we talking producers or are we talking about artists?
We're talking about moguls,
labels,
Bad Boy or Death Row.
So labels, East, you're gonna put Bad Boy. Of course, everybody's gonna say Gucci, 1017, because let's just be honest, Gucci really kind of set the tone for us in this generation.
So that's gonna be your East Coast Mount Rushmore of music moguls.
Well,
damn.
Nah, then
because it gotta be it was like 4 or 5 people on Mount Rushmore.
Master P.
Okay, that's a good one.
Master P.
All right.
I will also say, even though Pimp C kind of didn't claim the East.
See, we really in the South now, though.
Yeah. So.
You gotta. I think you gotta make a distinction. I don't think you can consider. Is New Orleans East?
It technically is. If you splitting up the jump, it's East and West. But that's they gonna claim the South.
Right.
Even if they don't, I would have to say Pimp C, UGK. Those would be my top 4, well, top 3 at most.
All right, as the old head in the room, you can't even commission Mount Rushmore without Russell Simmons.
There we go.
Okay.
You can't even do it. That's
hip hop.
That's like leaving Dwight Howard off the NBA 75 team. You can't do it. Russell Simmons started it. I'm not saying Dwight Howard started the NBA. I'm just saying it's just an egregious miss. Russ did all of this, and everybody emulated his model. So you got to have him and Diddy on there. After him and Diddy, like number 3, it's probably Master P. He
is the definition of an artist doing it on your own.
P is that dude.
That's Mr. Independent right there.
Mm-hmm.
Out west though, it's hard for me to even put Suge in that category.
He deserves to be up there for what he's done in the time period that he was able to do it. Because on the West Coast they was banging it out with Dre and Snoop.
Right.
They was definitely boom, 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 boom. Dre and Snoop came out hitting nothing but hardcore records.
Right.
I just wonder what Suge would have been without Dre. What would he have done if he did not have Dr. Dre
Right.
putting them beats together?
Well, even bringing artists. I mean, Dre.
I
brought
credit
Snoop.
Dre for Snoop. I credit Dre.
Eminem. He brought Eminem in.
Just the people that he has made happen. Like Suge put it on one label. Suge started Death Row Records, and because he started Death Row Records, he distributed all that music all over the world, and that's major. You can't take nothing from that. But is there an appetite for that music without Dr. Dre?
No.
I don't know. If people would have wanted it so much if it were not for Dre's beats. I think Dre and Suge needed each other.
I always say if Dre had never found Suge and Suge didn't like push him to do as much as he did on Death Row, we wouldn't have a Tupac.
I can agree to that.
We wouldn't even have known who Snoop Dogg was.
Tupac would still be in Digital Underground. He still would have been talking about clowning around with the underground, which wasn't bad. It just wasn't his skill set. He was so much more than that.
I don't know. I Get Around was pretty hard. I like that.
I
still bang that out every now and again.
It's a nice track, but he has so much more to say. See, Underground was like, I don't want to say comedic.
It was like house party music.
Yeah, it was lighthearted. It wasn't soul touching. It wasn't serious. It wasn't.
It reminds me of 80s hip hop. A lot of it.
Yeah. Shock G, rest in peace, put together some party music, and it still cranks. You can still play the Humpty Dance. You know what I mean?
For sure.
But I just think Tupac had more to offer than that. He had more to offer than I Get Around, and I'm glad that he finally got to do it because we needed it.
Right.
We needed it.
So would you say Dre pulled that out of Tupac?
Or did he want and thirst for his opportunity to get it out on his own? I don't know that Dre pulled it out of him. I don't know that you had to force Pac to be Pac. I think Pac was bouncing around looking for some place to be Pac.
Okay.
That's why he left Baltimore. Pac's from Baltimore. But he couldn't be Pac in Baltimore. So he got out there and he went to Oakland. Oakland is known for making music. Some of the greatest R&B bands of all time come out of Oakland.
Also hip hop. You got what's his name came out of hip hop.
Too Short's from
Too
Oakland.
Short, yeah.
E40's from
These
Oakland.
are the tales.
Hammer's from Oakland. You can't be in Oakland and not hear local artists, not hear music. So he goes to Oakland. He hooks up with Shock G, who I did not hear of before Tupac got there, I don't think. And that worked. But because you in Cali, you're real close to LA, that whole connection with Suge and Dre and Snoop, that worked out too. So I'm not gonna say Dre pulled that out of him. I'm gonna say he was looking for that opportunity the whole time.
So who would you say out of that era, out of Dre, since we on that topic, out of Dre and all of that whole entire era, who do you think was the most impactful when it came to shows, radio?
Who got the most spins is pretty,
right.
Yeah.
Snoop killed the game. Snoop killed the game when that well, first off, when he did the deep cover track, and everybody's like, "Who the hell is that?" That got everybody's attention. But Ice-T had a track that did the same thing called 6 in the Morning that people done forgot about because it was way older than Snoop. But it had the same kind of impact. It was like, who the hell is that? Too Short had the same kind of impact when he dropped. Everybody was like, who the hell is that? There's a lot of people that get that attention, but the difference is Snoop kept it going. And Snoop maybe even got bigger than his initial impact was. So I gotta say Snoop. Too Short, he's had mixtapes and albums. I don't even know how many he's had, but I don't think he ever got bigger than his initial impact. Same for E40, same for most of the West Coast dudes. But Snoop dropped Deep Cover, and then he just got bigger. When he dropped G-Thing, that was like, okay, G-Thing dropped when something that y'all never seen before. The video jukebox was running videos on cable TV, and you could actually dial in, supposedly, and they would play the video that you dialed in, called in for on cable, and everybody would lock it. It got canceled because we found out that it was a scam. All the record labels were paying money to have their videos played. But for a long time, G-Thing played back to back to back to back because everybody wanted to see Snoop. And then he dropped Doggy Style, and it was a wrap. Snoop. Now, somebody else would say Hammer. I'm not here for Hammer. You can argue Hammer. You can argue Hammer. I ain't got nothing against him. But for me, it was Snoop.
Okay, so I got a couple more jumps on here.
Go.
Strip club or the regular club?
You talking about personally?
Yeah.
Strip club, you gonna get more. You gonna get a bigger audience.
More bang for your buck.
Yeah.
I'm talking about personally. What do you like? Because me personally, I'm the club dude. I like going to the club. Other brothers like the strip club better than the club.
I'm gonna say club because strip club, even at a strip club, you gonna have egos. People gonna try to outdo the next on throwing money. So I'd rather have a nice little chill vibe. So I'd be at a club.
Okay, the club.
I've worked at both of them. I've gone to both of them on my own time. Sex is not a spectator sport. I can go to a club and meet somebody and have sex. I go to a strip club and meet somebody. They tell me I can't touch it. I might have to pay for it. I ain't trying to pay for it. Not like that.
So club for
So I'm
you.
going to the club.
Okay. Podcast or radio?
Podcast.
That's a good one. Because I've been in radio for so long. I have to say radio. If I say podcast, it like denies me as a person. I got to say radio because that's where I grew up. But yo, you could do so much with a podcast.
Yes. That's why I'm always gonna be
so much with a podcast right now.
And that's actually the wave now. Everybody's getting a podcast. Everyone.
And the reason I'm not still in radio is because I can't make enough money to do what I gotta do in radio. I haven't figured that out yet. There's like maybe 4 people in radio that make good money. Everybody else is just struggling because they love it. They love it, but they don't want to leave it. They love it, and they're single. So if you have kids, you might not want to work in radio. Unless you want them 4 people. Okay.
That's a good one. And I'm glad you brought it up because a lot of people come into this department and don't know the truth about radio. So what was one thing that you learned that wasn't taught to you or you wish you would have known before you got into radio?
Oh my God, the money. The money is not there. If I had known, I worked my ass off in radio. I have my work ethic is on 1,000. Yo, I will be there in the mornings. I told you I had an overnight shift that started at 2 in the morning, and I did that till 6. And at 6 o'clock, I produced the Russ Paul Morning Show, and so I was there until at least 10 o'clock in the morning. But then I picked up imaging director, and so I'm there all day.
Oh,
I'm working in 4 states. I'm in DC, and it was fine when I was single. If you single, you ain't got no kids, it's cool. You get to go to all the clubs. You get free drinks. You close the club. Everybody knows you. Even when you're not working, you get to go. You get tickets to shows every once in a while. You don't get as many tickets as people think you get. My phone would ring every time somebody came to town. No, I ain't got no tickets. But as long as you single, it's cool. Get a real life. Get some real bills. Get some kids. And all of a sudden you realize it ain't enough money.
So I can't buy no Corvette if I'm on the radio.
If you single.
All right.
Buy while you still at home. Pay for it before you leave home.
Okay.
It's fun. It's a lot of fun. You meet a lot of people. I got a lot of pictures. I got a lot of drops. I got memories. I had a ball doing it. But had I known that I was not going to be able to retire wealthy based on how hard I worked, I would have found something else to do. I would have worked on my own thing.
Okay.
If I had put the effort that I put in the radio into my own brand, I think I would have been better off.
So do you think it's a lot easier for the people that work in radio now that we have social media than it was back when you was working?
I don't know if social media is entirely a good thing.
Because with social media, now that the radio people, they're able to reach a broader audience.
You can promote what you're going to do that night or what you're going to do tomorrow.
The problem with social media is if you got a Facebook page, I refuse to call it Meta. If you got a Facebook page and then you invite the people that you know to your Facebook page, then it's already people that know you work in radio. So to tell the people that you already know you work in radio, that you work in radio, isn't really going to get you very far. What it doesn't allow you to do, which I think would be a big help, is to reach the people that don't already know you, the people that aren't on your.
Well, that's what the Instagram and the Twitter is for, because that's more open for other people to come in.
Yeah, those are more open. Facebook just is flawed in that way. You can reach everybody on Twitter, and you can reach everybody on Instagram. You just can't put a whole lot of content up. You got to do that one page thing at a time. Yeah. Facebook needs to get on that level. They could get a lot more popping if they got on that level, because everybody on my page knows what I do. So I'm not promoting anything that they know. And the bad thing about it, at least for like a radio station's perspective, if you having a party and somebody walks in your party and it ain't popping, they instantly tell everybody on Facebook or whatever they on that it ain't popping, and they walk out and then don't know nobody that they know come.
So what?
Yeah.
So it can kill an event just as much as it can blow it up. Because if they walk in and it is popping, it's lit, and they tell everybody that, and it's not raining outside, then they can get a crowd in there. So it works both ways. It's a double-edged sword. It's good and bad at the same time.
Go ahead. I know you got a question.
So, just like you said on far as promotion, so which social media would you use if you were promoting
if you was just getting into radio right now?
If you were promoting an event right now, what would you use between Twitter or Instagram?
It's more people. Damn, that's a good question. Twitter or Instagram? Probably IG.
Okay.
Probably Instagram. Just because I'm not even on Twitter no more. Twitter canceled my account, man. I think I'm in Twitter jail. I got suspended. I can't even get back on my Twitter account. I got to figure out what I did. I probably said something. I was talking stuff to somebody, I'm sure. But Instagram seemed like it's better suited for that. And more of my people, more people that go out, I think, go on Instagram. I don't know what Twitter is. Twitter's like, it's a different vibe on Twitter.
Okay.
It's not really like a real party vibe on Twitter.
Okay.
You know, outside of Titty Tuesdays, it's kind of boring. it's like, you might as well go to IG. But here's the thing. Here's what you got to understand about radio, which is why it's hard for me not to say radio when you ask me radio or podcast. When I grew up, like, if my mother took me to Sears, which is a store that mothers used to take their kids to. Y'all don't know what Sears is.
I know. I've been to Sears. I've been to Sears.
Sears had like an electronic department where all the TVs were, and they had like racks of radios, and the radios would be on when you walked into the electronics department in Sears, and you could listen to the radio. You can't even go to a store now and buy a radio. You can buy a car that doesn't even have a radio in it. Radio was so much more a part of my life because of the time that I grew up in. I didn't have a phone. I didn't have Pandora. I didn't have any Spotify.
Sirius XM.
I didn't have an iPad. I didn't have
iPodcast.
All of my music came through the radio. I could buy a record, which was an actual record, you know, before CDs and tapes. I could buy a record, or I could turn on the radio. People don't even have radios anymore. So getting in the radio today is a little bit different than it is when I did it, which is why there's not that much money in it anymore, because the consumption of radio is just a lot less than it was 30 years ago. So for today, it would have to be podcasts. Getting started in radio and trying to promote something right now, I encourage anybody that's in that position, because that can't be easy. To get into radio today at a time when you can't walk into a store and buy a radio and try to promote a concert or an event, it used to be so much easier because everybody had a radio. We had Walkman. It was the size of your phone, had headphones you plugged in, and you could listen to the radio wherever you went. I can't even listen to the radio on my phone. Everybody got a phone, but you can't even listen to the radio on your phone. So it's tough. It's just, I don't know, it's tough now. It's different.
I had one of those. It wasn't a Walkman, but it was a small silver junk that you could actually listen to the radio with, and you had to plug the headphones, and it came with the big old junks that big old studio headphones.
Right.
So that was still a little bit my era, because that was back when iTunes, you had to pay for it. All the music you got on iTunes, you paid for it. It was $9.99 or 99 cents. And if it had that one star next to it, it was $1.99.
Man, ooh, that is a killer.
Yeah, I still remember my first album that I bought, because I used to. It was the Drake album. Nothing was the same.
Oh, okay.
So that was the first one I actually spent money on. I was the one that was illegally downloading the music.
You said the Carter 3?
Yes, that was the first.
Yeah, I actually spent money on.
The first album I bought was
that and Pusha T's album.
Which one?
That was the one he did. King Push. I
like Push.
Yeah, so I bought those two albums. The first two albums I bought, and I was like, all right, cool. I contributed to society. That was my. Because you had to go and buy the iTunes gift cards,
right?
Because I ain't have a credit card. I ain't had no type of card. I'm like, this is like 2000. I think Drake Jump came out in 2012 or 10.
20. That's late 2011, early 20.
Yeah, I didn't have no credit card, no debit card, so I had to go. I would go.
Y'all making me feel old.
All right.
The first album, because the kids now don't even know
the
that.
first album I ever bought was Stevie Wonder Original Musicarium. It's his greatest hits album.
Wow.
It had Ribbon in the Sky on it.
Okay, I heard
that
about
was
that
like
one.
The original track. That was the first Stevie Wonder album I ever bought. It was $13. It was a double record set. It was $13.99 at the Kemp Mill Records on Riggs Road, and what's that? Riggs and Sargent.
Wow.
I remember to this day, because that record store. See, y'all don't even have record stores no more. God. I used to spend like every Saturday afternoon at that record store, just going through the stacks looking for music, and that's the one that I bought.
Wow.
Okay, I got two more questions before we wrap it up.
Let's do it.
One, have you ever been starstruck while working in radio?
Yes.
And if so, who was it?
I'm almost embarrassed to say it, because I'm not that dude. I've seen and talked to everybody. I've had conversations with Alicia Keys, who was fine. Alicia Keys and I actually were trying to set up. She was probably playing with me. We were going to set up a play date for our kids. I met Snoop, Buster, Kanye. I met everybody. I got a crush on Nia Long.
God bless it. God bless it.
I got a straight weakness for Nia Long. And my man B Plus, this dude used to work the radio station with me. He knew, cause I wasn't shy. I told everybody. So like, yeah, that's my next wife. And I was doing news on another station when he came into my studio and he said, "Yo, we got Nia Long around the corner." I said, "No, you don't." I said a little more flowery than that, but I said, "No, you don't." He just looked at me and he said, "Okay," and he walked out. And I sat there and I thought,
he wouldn't walk out like that.
He wouldn't walk out
so
like that.
Cool about it.
Yeah, maybe she's around the corner. So I was doing what you're doing. I was running the board. There was somebody doing the news. And at 5 minutes to the top of the hour, we went to break. Took my headphones off and I opened my door. And it was a U-shaped hallway where like these studios were on. And so I was on the far end. He was on the opposite end. So I ran around one corner and I take off and I turn the other corner. And she's coming around the other side of the corner. So I just missed running her over, and I pulled up and hit the brakes and stopped like this close to her. And all the cool left my body. I couldn't even say anything. I was trying to say I'm sorry, and I just kept and so B Plus was walking her to my studio as I was running around into his, and he apologized for me, so I had time to get myself together, and we had half a conversation after that. But Nia Long is the only person that's ever got me like that. She's the only one, and if I see her today, she probably get me the exact same way.
Okay, so I got another one for the people going into radio. What advice do you have for the students at Bowie State University that's in the radio program? What advice do you have for them that want to pursue a career in radio?
Learn everything. Learn everything. Don't just think that doing whatever your specialty is going to get you through the next 5 years, through the next 10 years. Radio is a dynamic industry and things change. And people will ask you, like Kathy Hughes asked me, can you run the board? Everybody's not going to be as nice as she was to me. It helps if you know how to run the board. It helps if you know how to adjust the mix minus on a remote signal. It helps if you know how to get the talk back to go to an artist who's broadcasting from Wolf Trap for a concert so they can hear what you're saying and you can hear what they're saying. It helps if you know that the show before your show, the board was set up differently and they didn't put it back the way it was, and you come in and you don't know how to get the signal to go over the air because you don't know the board. Learn everything. Somebody is going to ask you how to do something someday, and if you can't do it, you're limited. That means your money is limited. If your skill set is unlimited, then your earnings are unlimited. Learn everything you can learn. You are not just a producer. You are not just a host. You are not just a DJ. You are not just an engineer. You could be called to do any one of those things on any given day, and it helps if you know what you're doing. Learn it all.
I like that.
That's
I like
awesome.
that. I don't know, you got any questions? You got one last question for him before I wrap it up?
Don't make it so heavy, man. Ask me like what my favorite ice cream is or something.
Nah, he actually covered up everything.
I couldn't have covered everything. I've only been here 20 minutes. I couldn't have covered everything. All right, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
What was your hardest day here?
My hardest day.
What made it hard?
I'm gonna say today, actually.
Really?
Being prepared to actually learn how to do a proper interview, learn how to actually how a radio station.
Who did that? Who did that? Yeah. Somebody said throwing on the rules don't work. Hey, God darn it works.
Okay, so you're learning. That's good. That's good. Because it shouldn't be. This job shouldn't be hard.
Yes.
This job shouldn't be hard. If you're on the mic, you're just being you.
Yes. And I want to say this actually it showed me in the way I want to go. It actually opened my eyes that this is something that I actually want to do.
Okay.
This is something I'm looking into because I love to talk. So what better place not to do than a radio station?
You get to talk and get paid at a radio station, and you don't suck at it. So you should just keep.
Lord
doing
knows I love it. I love to talk and get paid.
Man.
This guy loves to hear himself talk.
You know it. You know it.
And those are the people who succeed in radio. That's how it works.
Thank you.
That's how it works. Figure out what you like and do it. But like I said, learn everything else too. Learn how to run that board.
I actually want to do that too. That's going to be my next.
Learn how to
goal.
run that board.
And we can show you too.
Ain't nothing to it. You just gotta have the right. You gotta be open to new stuff. Like a lot of people in radio. People in radio tend to get split from what I've seen. There's personalities that never want to touch the board, and then there's technical people who never want to get on the mic.
Wow.
And radio stations are usually split right there. You know, there's happy one attention people all the time talking who on this side, and the guy on the mic, the guy on the board, you never hear him say anything. He's real quiet. He doesn't look for a lot of attention. But you got to be able to do both. In my opinion, it helps a lot if you can be able to do both. Don't just be one or the other. Don't get stuck on this side. Go over there too.
And plus, the people will pay you more because
Yeah,
you double skilled. You know, 'cause I'm over here. I'm on the mic, but I'm also running the board as well.
People who can host and run the board are looked at as more valuable than people that can do one or the other by the folks that pay you.
That's why he said learn everything, because you'll never know, if you got to run and, somebody else, boom, you might be producing a morning show or an evening show at another station, boom, go across the hall, and then you got your own little TV show. I mean, not TV show, your own little radio show. Then you might be working the board at another station. And, because, at 93.9, they got, in Silver Spring, they got 3, 4, 5 stations in one. Right. So you could be, you could just walk across the hall, boom, do that real quick for an hour, boom, come and have your own show for an hour, boom, or 4-hour periods and stuff like that. So you can be boom 4 hours here, 4 hours there, 4 hours somewhere else, because you know everything. So this is like boom. Now you looking at like, oh, this guy needs a raise. You always want to be the guy that they look at. Oh, that guy needs a raise.
Well, they very rarely ever look at you and say, oh, you need a raise here. just if you're gonna wait for that to happen, that's probably not gonna happen. You're probably gonna have to go knock on the door and say, what do I have to do to make more money here? And have that conversation.
And demand it.
Had that conversation.
Okay.
But even like, okay, say you're here. Like he talked about Radio 1. Yeah, it's Kiss, Magic, Praise, OL. There's 4 stations over there. So there's always somebody else in the building. Right here, there's nobody else here. So let's say you're the host, he's the producer, and you're on the air. It's your show. But life happens. You get a call from your daughter's school. She fell, hit her head, and she's out cold. You getting ready to leave. If he can't host the show,
it's over. It's done.
You got dead air.
There's nobody else in the building, or vice versa. You're hosting the show. He's producing the show. He's got to leave. There's nobody else in the building, and you don't know how to run that board.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? You see how valuable knowing everything is?
Yes, sir.
And then when you get to the point where that happens and the station didn't lose any revenue, all the commercials played, the guest that came in 30 minutes later got interviewed, everything else went according to schedule, even though it could have been a day from hell, it wasn't because of you. Now you're valuable. And now you can go knock on that door and say, excuse me, what I got to do to make more money here?
Yes, sir.
Learn it all, man.
Most definitely, I will.
Well, Brother Jay, I want to appreciate you coming and dropping the knowledge, dropping the bombs on us today.
No problem, my brother. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Arnold, I want to thank you as well. This is Arnold's first time actually being on air, so I'm proud of you. You did what you're supposed to do.
He held it down.
It's a lot harder than he thought it was going to be.
Yes. I was prepared for it. I told you, hey, whatever challenge, I'm ready.
Of course. And it's WBSU Bulldog Nation Radio streaming worldwide from your favorite your favorite HBCU, Bowie State University.